Hi!
Stop it. Hi, everybody. We are Christy and Nick. We are the owners of Geary Farms. We've been farming for 3 years now.
Yep.
I think it's been 3.
Yeah.
We rent land in southern New Hampshire, and that is where we farm. We currently rent 1 acre, but we are hoping to expand that. We'll see how that goes. But anyways, we wanted to start this YouTube channel because we felt like we've been learning a lot. We'd like to document some of it and, I don't know, take people along on our journey.
Yeah, definitely take people along on the journey. It has been a humbling experience trying to learn how to farm, to say the least. Last year we got no rain. This year we got all the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are trying to grow outside, that becomes a fun hazard to deal with, I guess. Some things produce, some things don't, and it is up to you as a farmer to decide what you're going to go bigger on, and sometimes that doesn't always pay off. So we'd like to share our journey at the very least.
Yeah. I feel like we've been, I don't know, I guess 3 years feels like a long time sometimes, and we also feel like we are brand new. Like we are still learning everything every day. I mean, we're still trying new crops, so every time you put something in the ground, it's the first time. But the thing with farming is that you only get one shot once a year most of the time, and if it doesn't work, then you learn something new and you try again the next year.
We're also trying new techniques all the time. So the first year we made our field, we wood chipped everything very nicely, and we had, just a small section of the field planted for that first year, and it felt abundant until we put it in the farm stand, and then it's not so abundant. It was the same thing this year. We decided to go really big on tomatoes because we do have a high tunnel on the property we rent from, and they just, with all the cloudiness and I don't know, we just didn't do as well as we thought we were going to do with tomatoes.
Well, our high tunnel tomatoes did better than our field tomatoes.
Yeah, the field tomatoes did not do so good.
But they were definitely, they almost became a fall crop this year. We didn't get tomatoes until like August.
Yep.
Which is very odd for the high tunnel. We're usually pulling them out in like, I don't know, late June.
And also something we didn't have a problem with last year was they're either moles or voles. I'm not sure which one. I've just seen little things scurrying away and going down holes. We probably have both, to be honest, and they ate a lot of potatoes. So they would take little nibbles. We'd eat the potatoes, but you can't sell those. So
just one bite out of every potato.
Another thing we decided to go kind of big on as far as our acre goes, and the amount of space we have and how often we can rotate crops. We also got some chickens. I guess we'll talk about our morning rounds. That's something that is interesting. We have goats in one place because there's no barn rental space at the garden spot we have. And so we have goats in one space, chickens on that acre, and we just moved the other group of chickens from our house that we had here. They were basically incubating at the house and getting ready to go to a field. But at one time we had 3 different locations of animals, as well as our garden plot. So our life is fun.
I think what we wanted to talk mostly about today, though, is why we chose to farm. It's a question we get a lot. People always ask why we picked this as a career.
Hold on. Yeah, that's the first one that they ask, and then the next one they ask is, how do you make any money? That's the second question all the time when you say you're trying to farm. How do you make any money? And it's like, that's kind of a personal question, but, we're putting this out for the internet now, so. Hi, everyone that's asked me that.
So we like to answer that question with, we didn't really choose farming. Farming kind of chose us in a weird way. When we first bought our house 6 years ago, almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years ago now, I think.
I think it's five and a half-ish. We moved in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when we first bought our house, the first thing we wanted to do was put in a garden. We were very excited about that. I've eaten mostly vegetarian, vegan my whole life, and so growing my own food always seemed really exciting, but I never really had a space to do it. And so that was like my first homeowner act, was to put in our garden. and we failed miserably. I mean, I don't think we grew almost nothing out of the garden.
Yeah.
Like there was
Nothing.
not a whole lot there because we had no idea what we were doing.
Nothing
We just
at
threw
all.
seeds in the ground and saw what came up.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't matter. The littlest bit of things that we harvested was just so exciting. We were so excited to eat our first cucumber, to put a tomato on our sandwich, and it was the most exciting thing, was to be able to pull food out of the garden, and that kind of just, like, that was the bug that bit us.
Yeah, I suppose for me it was always healthy eating, and once you actually get down into researching food, healthy eating comes from your backyard. That's where you get the best microbes, that's where you're going to get the freshest food, that's where it's going to have the highest nutrient profile. And so I've always been kind of, I don't know, I guess a gym rat, or I just like to take care of myself, I guess, is how I would put it.
No, you were a gym rat, that's fine.
I was a gym rat, and farming is the only gym I need now. But yeah, so it started with healthy eating, and we started planting stuff, and I kind of got addicted to planting stuff and growing stuff, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of what Christy said, where farming kind of chose me. I was sitting out of work hurt and trying to find my next career move, and it's the only thing that really resonated with me. Where I kind of see myself, where I'd want to be, is rotating animals kind of on a mass scale to regenerate lands and that kind of neat thing. But I also like to do food that way. There's a book I always quote when I'm talking about our farming journey, and it's Restoration Agriculture by Mark Shepard. And that's the one that really got me. And then Joel Salatin stuff on YouTube. Not that I have any interest in cows, because after doing goats, I really honestly, like...
Well, you can't ever say never.
I'm not saying never, but like a big animal, just after doing goats, I'm like, oh man, I can't imagine a cow, that's going to be exhausting. But no, anyway, it was the idea that you could regenerate things, and that you could regenerate the planet using agriculture. So you could essentially provide food, fuel, fiber, and the needs of people by regenerating the landscapes, and that idea excites me. Have I gotten to that point? I've definitely regenerated the acre we're on. I mean, we have done a lot of work putting nutrition there and getting it to grow stuff when people straight up told us that it was bottomland and it couldn't grow anything. So we've done a lot of work, but I don't think I'm where I want to be completely, no, to be honest, but that's a conversation for later, I guess. The more we do this.
Yeah. I mean, so our first kind of step into farming and thinking that we wanted to farm was on our honeymoon. We road tripped up and down the East Coast and stayed at a couple different state parks along the way. We camped most of the time, but we stopped at Polyface Farm. We went to Joel Salatin's farm, which was really exciting to see how it all worked with the rotational grazing. We had never even farmed at this point. We were still in our backyard. We had installed a bunch of raised beds, and we had grown a little bit more food. But we were more homesteading at that point. But we were just really interested in the idea of being able to restore land using animals, using agriculture, like Nick said.
Can I just caveat on that? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't think you can use the word homesteading until you actually pull that pressure canner out of the box.
All right, I'm terrified to use my pressure canner. If anybody has like experience with it, let me know, because I am so scared. So please give me encouragement. Someday I will use it. I got it for Christmas. It is now October, and I have yet to use it. All right, so we weren't homesteading. We were just growing food at home. Let's call it that.
Fresh food.
Yeah. But so we stopped at Polyface Farm. We bought Joel Salatin's book, what is it, The Lunatic Farmer?
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. I should know the actual name of it. The Joys of Being a Lunatic Farmer? Oh, gosh. Anyways.
Sorry, Joel.
Yeah, I should know the name of that. I'll post it in the comments if I figure out how to do that. But anyways, and so for the rest of the road trip, Nick drove. He swore he would share time with me, but he wouldn't. Literally, I drove the first leg, and he drove the rest of them. But anyways, Nick drove, and I read that book to him, and we finished it on our honeymoon. And by the time we got back, we just knew we had to farm. We had to do it. It was what we wanted to do. And so we started looking for land, and we found a really cool opportunity to rent an acre on a town-owned plot of land. It had a high tunnel, it had a well, it had everything we needed. And we decided to go for it with not a whole lot of farming knowledge, but at least everything we had. I mean, we had been inundating ourselves with books and YouTube channels and everything that we could find. But really, I mean, we had never done it before.
There's a saying about research and procrastination, and actually research can be part of the procrastination cycle. Well, we don't have that problem. We research and then we jump 2 feet in. And sometimes we get stuck into poop, but poop makes good soil, so you just gotta dig yourself out and turn it into compost, and you'll be just fine. You can wash yourself, I promise. I've been covered in poop. Rat poop, I've been covered. Oh, sorry. All kinds of poop. But anyway, there's something special about seeing a landscape like the one that poop's funny. It's always gonna be funny.
Oh, you're doing so well.
I know. There's something special about being on a landscape like Joel Salatin's, though. It's basically what she was trying to say, is that when we saw it and we actually felt it, and it's kind of weird because it's like electricity has a buzz, right? It's like the land that someone is taking care of has a certain buzz to it, and you can almost feel it as a human. It doesn't really matter what kind of human, and it may be confusing to you. I remember watching another documentary about a guy who plants gardens, and he made some of the most beautiful gardens in the world. He was a garden architect for his whole life, like, basically, and his idea was that if a garden should be an emotional journey. Basically, a garden has emotion to it, whether you realize it or not, and you don't ever realize it until you step foot into the garden, and then you're gonna go, oh wow, why is this different? Why does this feel different? Like, what? And I kind of view farming landscapes the same. When I see like a farm and I know that their practices are, regenerative and they're trying to do things as close to nature as possible, you can feel the buzz. We have a couple friends that live down the road, and you can feel the buzz on their farm. It's like a life buzz. When you step foot on the thing, it's a different experience than when you're walking down the street of a city. That's a human buzz. And I think a life buzz is what I got from Joel's farm. It was like, wow, he really creates and caters to life here. And that was part of the book that I really enjoyed, and maybe part of the reason I got into farming. So it's kind of tying the whole question together, it's the life buzz of farming. Like, when you're creating life, when you're actually seeing the biodiversity of your yard change as you let the soil and the landscape dictate what it wants to be, you can feel the life buzz of it. It's a different feeling. I don't know for you. Maybe
No, I love that. I really like the way you're describing that.
I don't know. Like bees buzz, so maybe landscapes can buzz. I'm not really sure how to put it, but there's definitely a certain feeling you get when you're on a live piece of land.
There's almost like an energy.
Yeah, I just don't like that word. It's kind of woo woo.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think there's a certain energy to it, but I'll be the woo woo one. That's fine.
I'm trying to stay away from energy because, like, a lot of people use that and abuse it. So I don't know. I don't want to say energy. I want to say buzz because buzz is my word.
All right, so buzz to it. Got it.
I guess. So that's kind of the farming buzz is what we caught, I guess you would say.
I think a lot of it was learning about soil too, though. Compost really got us using compost mostly as a fertilizer. I mean, we use almost 100% well, no, we do use 100% compost. We don't put any other kinds of fertilizers on our fields.
Unless you count the minerals we feed our goats, and then they poop.
Well, that goes through the compost too, so it's just compost.
But it's poop.
Oh, stop it.
I'm just saying.
But learning about the microbes in the soil, learning about how plants interact with the soil. I mean, I always say that we are farmers, but we're really conservationists first. We're very interested in how trees grow, how trees communicate, how forests, ecosystems work. And we like to bring that into our garden. We have what I would call a messy garden. Um, we have lots of, long grass growing on the edges. You can't see our neat and tidy rows right from the road, but we leave that on purpose because it creates biodiversity. I also get to pretend that I'm not just being lazy and didn't weed the bed. I can say, look at it. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it adds something to the landscape. There's always roots in the ground. Even if you're, clear, we don't till, but we will clear a bed to plant something. But if you have the grass in your walkways or stuff like that, there's always roots holding the ground. And so there's always some kind of communication and network happening underneath the ground. We're not pulling everything up at the same time. But learning how that all communicates and seeing the life in our gardens is really part of the joy of it. We love pulling food out of it, but I also love seeing a bee sleeping in a flower or all the dragonflies flying around. And
Yeah.
I don't know, that really adds to it for me.
Well, I remember we were standing there, I think it was year 2, and we were there at night. We go back and forth quite a bit. We were there at night, and I remember seeing the dragonflies for the first time, actually. And I don't know if it was just a heavy year for hatching dragonflies or what, but I remember seeing them and thinking to myself, walking underneath the cloud, wow, there's no mosquitoes. Like, it was dusk, and I'm like, finally, there's no mosquitoes here for the first time ever, because that property behind it has a ton of water. There's, like, a river feature, and there's a ton of, like, little wetland vernal pools and stuff like that. And it is always buggy. You want to talk about, like, black fly season? I mean, I'm numb to it now, I swear. I just wave my hand and keep walking, because we walk our dogs there every day. And it just breeds a lot of life. And so I remember seeing the dragonflies and being like, oh my God, this principle actually works. Like, it actually does balance eventually. Like, you can see it in action, and when you do see it in action, it's super cool. And we had, one year we had green pea aphids like crazy, killed almost all of our peas, and then the next year, gone. And I think that year we did decide to purchase, what did we get? Did we get soldiers?
Green lacewing flies.
Green lacewings, that's right. We did purchase those, but
because they're native, right?
They're native.
Is that why we decided to?
Yeah.
We didn't want to bring in a bug that wasn't going to be something native that would already be there. But we did purchase the green lacewings, and I think they helped. But it's really hard to tell if they stuck around or not.
It's hard to tell because, again, it's year to year. So, this is why we're kind of documenting our journey now. At least we're going to have video record, because keeping a journal, I can't even think of adding another thing to our repertoire right now.
Right.
At one point we were trying to run a food truck too, and that was not easy either.
It's a whole different story.
Yeah, story for another day again.
But one of my favorite stories that I think we read from a conservation standpoint is a group of people who had invasives taking over their whole backyard. And they had the choice to spray herbicides to clear it. They had invasive plants. I don't know if it was loosestrife or, I don't remember exactly what kind it was. But the point of it was that...
I remember it being in the UK, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So they decided to just leave it to see what happened. And they said after 3 years... now I'm going to tell the story horribly because I don't remember what kind of bug. But after 3 years, a bug came in and just started eating it, like swarms of it. And they just mowed this entire plant. And all of a sudden, it was gone. And they were able to grow native plants there again. And we really like the idea of sitting with a problem. We don't love it when it's happening, when something's eating our plants. It's not fun to watch. But from a grander scheme, sitting back and watching, it's really nice to be able to see a problem solve itself because you left it alone. Instead of coming in and trying to spray for something or kill a bug, to just allow nature to take its course. And something seems to usually come in and take care of it, because you're not going to have the predators that you want if you don't have the prey for them to eat. They're not just going to hang out and wait for it to show up. And so you kind of have to leave it there in order to get the predators to come in. And they do. It takes a while, but it's very satisfying and a very cool thing to watch when it does happen.
So I guess one of my dreams came true this year, and this is kind of a horrific story, I guess. But one of my dreams came true in the fact that I got to mow a hayfield, and tet a hayfield, and rake a hayfield. So I am slowly learning how to hay, so that I can take care of our goats eventually.
Very exciting.
Exciting stuff for some. I guess if you're watching us, it's exciting for you. So
it just felt like a farmer level check off. Like,
yeah.
We now know how to hay. Check.
I wouldn't go as far as say we know how, but I have done it.
Okay.
I have now done it. So yeah, put that in the bucket of things I've done. I'm sure there will be more for the future. But I remember mowing it and just looking around, and you don't mow grass without killing stuff. It basically, like, in the hayfield, when you have this diversity of life, and there's grasshoppers and crickets and snakes and mice and all of the tropic levels going all the way to the microscopic to the major ones that you can see and recognize, you're not running a blade over that without killing. Like, it kind of opened my eyes this year to watching that and going, oh, this is why we leave the grass long by our beds. Like, it actually creates the environment for these predator bugs. And if you didn't have those, it definitely would not be the same. And
now
so
there's so much life in a hayfield.
Yeah, I understood it from a microscopic level because I had taken a course and I knew the predatory levels and all that stuff, and I was kind of thinking about that. But then when I actually see what a predator blade can do across a hayfield, and way faster than some little bug hopping along just eating things left and right, I was like, oh wow. I'm like, this is a different look at this. Like, and so I kind of took that and took it back to our garden, and I look at the long grass and everything a little bit different now, because it's just like they need that space. Without that space, they don't exist. Without the pieces of wood, stacked on the wood line, and you flip them over, look at the life underneath. Mm-hmm. And nature needs rot. It doesn't need to be cleaned up. It needs rot is one of the most important things for nature, like decay, detritus. Like, you need these things in order to break them down into their mineral content and go back to the earth to provide for the next generation of things. And the hayfield this year just proved that, at least I was speeding up that rot. Like, the amount of bugs and things I saw smashed against the, side of the tractor and everything, like, definitely sped up that process.
Still life that escaped. I understand that.
No, I'm not doom and glooming it. I'm not saying I killed. I'm the Reaper. I killed everything. Like, no, that's not at all. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that it gave me a different viewpoint. My farmer checkbox gave me a different view of things.
Right.
And it's cool to see, but like I said, I saw the dragonflies that year, and I was thinking of it in a different way. And, like, I don't know. It's an interesting thought, that's all.
Haying also, like, that experience for you kind of confirmed our choice not to till.
Yeah.
So when we clear a bed, we clear it mostly by hand, and it takes a whole lot longer, but we also get to pull the weeds and see what's growing and kind of see, if it has a long tap root, so maybe our beds are a little compact, like, they can kind of tell you what's happening in your bed. But we also get to see all of the bugs and the life, and we get to see the worms that come up, and we get to see, like, what's, the spiders and everything else. And so, and if you're tilling, you don't get to kind of do that check-in. You're kind of just, clearing them. You're just clearing. Yeah,
like I said, you're speeding up that decay process. Right. That's all that's what it is. You're speeding up the decay process, but in that speeding it up, you're actually doing a detriment to the life there. You're chopping too much. It's a balancing
it really
act,
depends,
right?
what your goal is. We choose, we have a book behind us, Mycelium Running. We
Yeah.
read that one before we started farming too, and learning about the fungus in the ground and how sensitive it is.
Yeah.
It really informed our decision not to till.
I mean, here's the thing: is like we haven't tilled on this acre, but give me a 50-acre plot that I have to plant in doing my research. If it's heavy clay and there's only a bare minimum of topsoil, I'm probably going to strip till that. I'm probably going to strip till, and I'm going to want to have life on either side of where I'm planting. So I'm going to want whatever topsoil or whatever plants are there to be on either side, but I'm going to strip till because I'm going to want to break the clay up.
Right.
And I'm going to want to put some nutrients back in there. I'm going to want to strip till, and I'm going to want to end with compost.
Right.
I guess I'm not against. I'm not against it. I just, for what we do as right now market gardeners, I would call ourselves in the farming world. Like if you were to place us in a category, market gardening, I'm not going to till. I would put in more raised beds if I had to. But I would do more work by hand doing hugelkultur beds. Like if I was setting up a backyard garden again, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be doing big raised beds with hugelkultur type technology, I guess you'll call it. For sure. First year you get mushrooms popping out of that thing. You know what you have going on. I mean, second year plant garlic in that and watch how big the bulbs get. So I guess we're young farmers. We're only 3 years into our career. I'm gonna keep saying I'm young.
Okay.
Don't. I'm young.
We are very young.
I am young. Thank you very much. And so these are kind of the things I've learned in the journey. Like I don't know. I'm still researching. I'm still learning every day. Like, that's just what I knew this journey was going to be about learning. I mean, yeah, life is about learning in my eyes, but...
I don't know if we'll ever stop learning. I mean, there's still a million crops that I want to plant that I haven't yet, and I want to learn how to do them. I mean, our biggest goal is to be able to grow large scale and kind of keep the principles that we've created on our 1 acre. We understand that the reason why we're able to do what we're doing right now, which is clearing beds by hand and kind of just wheelbarrowing our compost and not using tractors. And a lot of that's because we're only farming on 1 acre. But we're really hoping to be able to expand that soon and to be able to keep these principles going into a larger scale. And I mean, that in itself is going to be a entirely new learning curve.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge learning curve, not to mention the mechanical part, which neither of us really got.
Yeah, we are not mechanics.
No.
Soil, we're great at. Building beautiful compost, we're great at. Fixing a tractor, building a chicken coop. We're not the most handy people.
No, I full on as...
this is us after coming off of a really rough 2 days of trying to build a chicken coop, and it went horribly.
This is gonna take all the man I have to admit this, but I am not a handyman by any stretch of the imagination. I get big concepts. I'm really good at conceptual things, and I'm really good at hard work. But when it comes down to the small details and the planning for those and that kind of thing, I have to learn, I guess, is a good attitude towards it.
Yes, we're learning.
Yeah.
Always learning.
Yeah, definitely learning. But, learning. See,
that's a good way to end this.
Yeah.
Always learning.
Always learning. So you always learn.
Stay in school, kids.
Mm.
I'm just kidding. I actually, never mind. That's a conversation for another day, too.
What? Always learning.
Always learning, yes. That's a great place. That's a great